As I was reading the opening speech, I remembered our Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal in 2019, just before the elections, when Arun Jaitley was the Finance Minister. I remember budget was to be presented on 1st of February. On 25th of January, Arun Jaitley suddenly disappeared. And as far as the inside gossip goes, even the Prime Minister did not know where the Finance Minister is. So then there were a lot of media interviews that were going on from US, and then it was discovered that the Finance Minister is in US, giving all these interviews. So I remembered the plight of Piyush Goyal, on 1st of February, he was suddenly thirsted with the budget document and asked to read, and he was, if you go through his speech, the budget speech, he was actually fumbling through a lot of words. So I told myself that although I've been given this, I should not fumble. So anyways, welcome all of you for this event. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today at the BW Sustainable World Conclave as we gather to discuss one of the most crucial challenges of our times, sustainability and the ambitious goals we have set for 2030 and 50. The UN Sustainable Development Goals outline a global blueprint for addressing the most pressing issues we face, including climate change, poverty, inequality, and the preservation of our ecosystems. These goals are just not lofty ideals. They represent a roadmap for how we work together to build a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future. In the next few years, we must take significant steps towards these objectives. The time for small actions is over. We need transformative change, whether it's reducing emissions, embracing renewable energy, ensuring access to clean water, or advancing social equity. Our actions over the next 5 years will determine the trajectory of the coming decade. So here we are to discuss what these goals mean in practice for businesses. We'll be discussing the challenges, the opportunities, and the innovations that will help us get there. As we move forward, let us be guided not only by the urgency of the crisis we face, but also by the immense opportunity to create a future that's more resilient, inclusive, and harmonious with our planet. I'm excited to hear from our esteemed panelists who bring expertise and passion to these critical issues. Together, we can turn these goals into action. We may start with Ms. Vaishali. I'm sure each of your organizations has set an ambitious sustainability target. Can you share your key focus areas for achieving this 2030 and 2050 goals and the biggest challenge you foresee?
So thank you, Palak, and thank you, everyone.
I think Hindalco does a lot of pollution because of, so that's critical of you when you're here, you're talking and
Hindalco does a lot of? Can you repeat?
Because the kind of products it manufactures,
Okay.
steel and related, so we can imagine the kind of pollution that it causes
Okay.
and the impact on climate that it has.
Yes.
There's nothing directed towards
yeah,
a
yeah.
specific
Why
company,
not?
but
It's about metals
I
and
want you to
mining.
open up and share how you want to make that impact that will, really help our society in achieving these goals.
Sure. So thank you, Palak, and thank you, everyone. First of all, let me talk about Hindalco. We are in metals and mining. We are in aluminum and copper. Way back, we have coined our purpose which drives everyone to work for Hindalco, which was done with a lot of crowdsourcing of ideas involving everyone who works for Hindalco. It's in fact an ikigai for each one who works at Hindalco. And the purpose statement is, we manufacture materials that make the world greener, stronger, and smarter. So with that purpose, each one of us feels there is some passion, there is some profession, and there is something which we all can contribute for the Mother Earth. So that's what drives us when we work for Hindalco. Now, when I have to talk about metals and mining industry, so metals and mining industry is highly resource intensive, And when it is resource intensive, what my friend Palak just said, polluting, he said that, I appreciate. Yes, it is. Because you are conserving massive natural resources. But why do we need metals and mining? You know, one of my friend who is in critical mineral space, he's a professor, he has coined a term to me saying that, can you imagine human life without metals? He said there will be no difference between human and ape if there would not have been metals discovered on this earth. Can you imagine? There is everything which is metals here. Everything, everything. This bottle, this caps, this frame, this mic, everything is metals. So without metals, can you imagine our life? We would have been no different than apes. So metals are essential for the human society development, the evolution of, I would say, humanity. But I will quickly touch upon the subject we said. So we are, think about the transformative journey of India, whether it is high-speed rail, whether it is mega solar parks, or whether it is the EV vehicles. Each of these sectors calls for a critical role to be played by aluminum and copper both. So we are in it and we want to do this transformative journey. We want to lead it in a very responsible way. So that's where we have our ESG targets, which are, we want to be, say, nature positive holistically, and that's where we are working on zero waste to landfill at each of our factory sites. We have 19 factories operating in India and 26 all over the world. So each of our factory sites, zero waste to landfill is what we have taken as a absolutely non-negotiable commitment. And today when I sit here, 7 factories are zero waste to landfill certified by third party Bureau Veritas.
It's already done. All these factories are...
7 factories are done. Today while I sit here, and we have a roadmap and milestones.
19, 7 are done. Okay, great.
Out of 19 in India, 7 are done.
Oh,
yeah, and then there are challenges. That's how I have 22 projects with Indian Institute of Technology, IITs, running for repurposing the waste. Because every waste has to be repurposed. Traditionally, since 1938, metals and mining has been allocated the space to store it. But now I am trying to repurpose it and trying to use it. Cement is one of our largest customer, but we are trying to repurpose each of our waste with these IITs. So that's where we have the joint projects and also zero waste to landfill, water positivity, and clean air to breathe for everyone in our townships, in our factories, and in our buffer zone and periphery. So that's one non-negotiable target for each of our factories. So I'll talk on that later, but definitely we are committed to go beyond given norms by CPCB or Pollution Control Board in this country, and that's where our all efforts and capexes and projects are running, and so is on the biodiversity. In fact, we are trying to create each of our factory as a biodiversity micro hotspot, so that all those mega events, whether it is flood, the cyclone, the drought, our factory should stand tall, stand firm, and they should get least impact of it. So that's where our commitments are.
Okay, that was great. I would go to Dr. Arvind Bodhankar, who is also among the competitors of Hindalco in business and also in pollution. So can you give some...
In pollution, you are saying, in fact, we are helping them out. So we
steel.
are in a steel.
But metal.
So those, thank you, first of all, thank you, Palak, and thank you, Businessworld, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure. I have been into your earlier events also. I represent ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel. Those who don't know, ArcelorMittal and Nippon Steel are world's largest steel producers. They have joined hand together, and last 5 years back, we set up our business in India. We acquired the SR assets. We are close to 9.6 million today. Next year will be 15 million tons by 2032-22, and by 35 we have 40 million tons. So one of the largest investment, foreign direct investment, is coming from ArcelorMittal and Nippon Steel in India. Now coming to the CO2 footprint, yes, as a steel producer, we have almost, in India, on an average, 1 ton of steel emits 2.54 to 2.55 tons of CO2. I'm proud, we are the lowest one as compared to them. We are somewhere around less than 2.2, 2.17 or so. But Still, it's a lot. I mean, we emit almost 16 to 17 million tons of CO2 every year from one plant. And now, when we are going to be 40 million ton, you can imagine 2 tons per on an average. So, we'll be emitting about 80 million ton. India itself today emits about 344 million tons, the steel plants. We have 900 plus steel plants in India, and out of that, we are the 18 integrated large steel plant which have mines to rolling mills to galvanizing mill. Everything is there. So it's a big this thing. No, this thing. I mean, what you said. We accept that we are an emitter, but as my friend Vaishali has said, steel is also very essential. Everything what you see over here is steel. But that doesn't stop us from taking any efforts. A lot of efforts are being taken by the steel industry, cement industry, and heavy. We have a very rigid roadmap laid down. Both our parent companies have committed for net zero by 2050. And we ourselves have also laid down a program which is 20% reduction by 2030 on a baseline of 2021. So definitely efforts are being made. All this metal industry, as Vaishali has said, consumes a lot of material. We also consume almost, if we have to produce 1 ton of steel, we consume almost double of that virgin raw material. And obviously it's not giving us, if we are selling steel at around 45 to 50,000 rupees a ton, we may not be realizing that much of value out of it, but we make sure that nothing goes into a landfill. Even if it is going into landfill, it goes into a road construction or something like that, which is a useful one, and it actually replaces the sand and the aggregate. So another mining activity has been prevented by using that slag. Water, of course, all our plants are zero discharge plant, and we do not release any of the water outside. But mining is definitely one activity which we do, and a lot of virgin raw material we use. But we are also increasing the recycling percentage of scrap close to 6% to 7% we have been doing. We have set up a target of 15%. But the challenge, all of you know that scrap business is not a organized business, and the steel consumption earlier in India, when this 15 years of the life cycle, if you see, that time the consumption was less than 50 kg per capita. Today it has increased slightly 90 to 95%. In the developed world, the steel consumption is close to 250 kgs per capita. So their scrap availability is good, but with the European emission trading scheme and the other regulations, they are also not able to sell scrap to us. But in-house, we are setting up scrap processing centers and the other ecosystem which is required to increase the scrap, and we have set up a target to increase 15%. Slowly we will be building up. It all depends upon availability of the scrap and ecosystem. We are also working very closely on favorable policies on scrap. Government is also known, so they have come out with a national resource efficiency policy, also NREP, which talks about 30% of the scrap by 2030. So I will speak later. I mean, others also have to contribute.
Sure. I just want to ask one small question to both of you, since you are into metals and minings. So India is better when compared to China in terms of achieving these sustainability goals, or how do you see it? Since you are in the business, you may know where we stand currently.
China is for not transparent, but I had been to China a couple of times, and last few months back only I spoke into some decarbonization conferences. What I have seen, but they are innovative. I mean, I must agree that they are innovative. The scale at which they are playing, let's say for example, green hydrogen or CCUS, what we have been talking about, they are about a couple of years ahead of us in that area. We are just setting up a 500 nm cube of green hydrogen pilot, whereas they have already set up tons of pilot and all. So I would say they are slightly ahead.
So what is our problem in being innovative? Is
Cost.
it the profit mindset
Cost.
or the regulation cost?
No,
Regulations.
So, I mean,
or the government support.
We did a work, and when I developed the steel sector roadmap, we found out that to be net zero by 2070, Indian steel industry would require about $1,200 billion. That comes out. If we, by 2070, the pace at which we are growing, we will be producing about 19,000 million tons of steel. And if I have to make it net zero, if the steel which I am producing and selling it at $650 per ton, I will have to sell it at $1,250 per. My friend Ankit would say, I won't buy steel from you. Even if I ask him कि वही 1% 2% बढ़ा के दे दो, he say no, we won't buy that from you. So unless and until the consumers are ready to pay, sustainability, economic sustainability is a big issue. Yeah.
Sir, I would like to go to Welspun, Mr. Alok Mishra, who is the President and Group Head of Sustainability at Welspun. And I would like to know, we would like to know what is your report card on achieving these goals and what is the mindset within your group?
Thank you. I think, let me thank Businessworld to invite and organize this event. So thank you so much, Palak. I think from a tone you could realize that each one of the larger businesses that we are in India, sustainability is at the bottom, or rather a key player within the business understanding. And I think that stands true for Welspun as
Absolutely.
well.
When we have officers of sustainability, that shows that the intent is there.
Absolutely,
of
yeah.
the
See,
businesses.
I think intent probably was a question 5, 7, 10 years back. Each of these organizations have actually demonstrated leadership, and each of their businesses, they've actually set standards for, let's say, the smaller companies probably to follow. When I talk about Welspun as a conglomerate, we are into different businesses, textiles being one of our key business, steels is the second, infrastructure third, warehousing, logistics. And each of the businesses have a very unique sustainability challenge. And hence that's mandatory that way, that you approach a customized approach to solve those problems. Let's see, if I talk about textile. Now textile, we are one of the largest, let us say, consumers of cotton. And cotton as a raw material itself has its sustainability issues because it's dependent on farmers, farmer itself, the consumption of pesticide, insecticides, the inorganic fertilizers, the damage on environment, biodiversity, and all of that. So you pick up a challenge, or you pick up a target which is relevant for your industry. And for that matter, let's say one of our key goals is to migrate or move from conventional cotton use to sustainable cotton use, because that reduces the impact on the environment, it reduces the impact on the farmers who practice sustainable or organic farming and sustainable farming, if I can say so. Similarly, when you look at the manufacturing process, once the raw material reaches your plant, then it's all about the process itself, then it is energy and huge amount of water. So for me, water consumption, reducing water positivity is a big goal for me, and we would want to be one of the first companies who have achieved water positivity in textiles.
How is that? Can you give some example how you are?
Oh yeah, excellent. I think we actually are one of the very good examples as a company to see water positivity, because one of our largest manufacturing operations, that too is in Kutch, and which hardly has any fresh water. So what we have done is that we have actually set up a collaborative partnership with the local municipalities, and that this happened 15 years back. We are collecting the sewage from all these municipalities, close to 25-30 million liters of sewage every day. We pump it, bring it to our operations. We treat the entire sewage, and currently entire operation, which is actually coexistent textile and steel, the entire operation at Anjar is fresh water positive.
Really, how big is your sewage plant? Treatment plant?
The sewage treatment plant is like a municipal scale. It's a 30 million liter a day, which is right now operating. So from optimization, around 40 million liters a day sewage treatment. Now that's a unique example across the world where you do not find a textile company being a freshwater positive, because you need at least a couple of million liters of water every day, and that too of a very high quality, because the color, the shade, and all of that depends on the water quality. So I think for us, and that's why you choose those goals based on what are your key challenges. So same way, textile, you move on to steel. We have a challenge, of course, as already you've heard from Arvind, steel manufacturing as a process, as a lot of waste generation, so you always look to maximize conversion of waste to value.
I think if you advertise this, a lot of ESG compliant funds investors will be more interested. I
That's
don't
a
think
different
you have
story, Palak.
advertised this on that scale.
We do
Your
wherever
promoter,
we
I know
can.
him, and he is quite savvy on advertisements and
Yeah.
promotions, but
No, I think that's a different conversation, Palak. We can have that because we've seen a lot of.
advertise in the sense, what I'm talking is you talk more about it,
Sure, I take your
not
feedback.
about BW advertisements.
Absolutely. I'll use probably your platform to do that. But yeah, I think as a group, I think fundamentally we are very, very strong and see the future aligned with sustainability. So whatever business we are in, you will always find sustainability very strongly embedded in the business process.
So I'd like to go to Mr. Ankit Todi of Mahindra Group. He's a Chief Sustainability Officer there. I have seen Anand Mahindra ji is very vocal on social media on these issues and all. But can you share a lot of examples, that people may not know about how the group is working on these innovations on sustainability and climate?
Definitely. I'll just add on to what has already been discussed so far. So, sustainability is something that needs to be closely integrated with the core business strategy. And now, Mahindra is a large conglomerate. We operate in 20 different industries. So, philosophically, about 3 years back, we did something called how do you integrate sustainability as a core part of the business strategy with something called the planet positive mandate, which is converting each of the businesses to operate in a manner that it's planet positive. Now, what does this mean? This broadly means that we'll do 3 things in the businesses. The first is what we call greening the operation. So everything related to emissions, water, waste, material circularity, which is green material, recycled material, low emission material. That's the first part, that how can we incorporate and do as much as possible on these dimensions. But at the same time, the more important dimension is the second dimension, which is what we call greening the industry itself or decarbonizing the industry. Now, it's about creating a green business revenue. Now, it could be a green product, it could be a green service, or it could be what we call a green enabler. Now, to explain you, a green product is very simple. In the auto example, moving from ICE vehicles, petrol diesel vehicles to EV vehicles, you would have seen hopefully a lot of ads about our new EV launches. Similarly, in the 3-wheeler EV ecosystem, we are already doing a lot. We have the highest market share, about 60% or so. So similarly, if I go to a second product, we also have a real estate company which does residential housing. There, what we are trying to do is build green buildings, which are not just the conventional green building, but going a step beyond that, which is net zero in terms of emissions, net zero in terms of water, net zero in terms of waste. So that's the attempt there. If I were to go to a different business, we have an entire portfolio of renewable energy companies now. So right from scale renewable energy projects, which are 100 megawatt and upwards, to small scale projects, to solar pumps, etc. There's an entire series of what I would call green products there. If I go to a different business, which is Mahindra Holidays, which is a service-based industry. Now, service-based industry, we typically own resorts. There are about 100 odd resorts around the country. So in each of the resorts, we are trying to convert these resorts into, again, net zero energy water waste resorts. So you can hopefully give customers a green holiday. So that's the broader intent. If I, again, were to go to the last bucket, which is what I call the green enabler bucket. So we also have a finance company, one of the largest rural NBFCs in the country. Now, a lot of the financing is required for agriculture sector, and agriculture sector will be the one that would be most impacted by climate change. So how do you again enable sustainable agriculture is one of the areas of work. So the broader point that I'm trying to make is that sustainability is something that is not just about the tactical things, but it is about completely reorienting how each of the businesses or each of the industries that you operate in has to work. For some, it's a complete overhaul, things like steel, etc. You'll really have to overhaul how you manufacture some things. For some things, it's more incremental changes over a period of time, but that's the broader ethos.
Okay. Vaishali ji, any key?
Something on the water positivity. He has given a very good example, but I would like to explain it in a very simple way where each industry, each business can do it, the water positivity. Sure. So water positivity is like whatever amount of water you are using for your operations, if you can give that much of water back to the society, or 1.2x times of that. So that's the simple formula we have given to all our factory locations. So whatever water you use for your operations, you try to reduce that consumption of that water by doing large scale rainwater harvesting, by doing water table charging. Do it in your operations, and if you do not have more space and all, or do it within and then go beyond fence and do that in a very systematic way in your, through your CSR initiatives or in your buffer zone, your close by villages. You create a lot of check dams, you create a lot of lakes, bodies, so that if I as a Hindalco consume 80 million meter cube of water, I have a target of giving 1.2 times the 100 million meter cube of water to society. So each of our factory has a roadmap that how many bodies, how many check dams, how many lakes they will create this year. So this is a collaboration we have started with
within
CSR.
Hindalco. You have any targets like that within Hindalco? Do you do already or?
Yes, every factory
Achha.
of Hindalco. So today our Maudha factory is water neutral. So they don't take any water. It's all 3 lakes within premises, and all the water required for operation is through our own lakes. Taloja factory is on the verge of getting it. We have already put 2 rainwater harvesting structures, huge structures. So 6 months of water is through these structures. And now we are trying to measure how many months. Silvassa factory we are trying to put with 100% of the rainwater which is conserved will be used for process, and no water will be taken from any other MIDC or the groundwater sources. And that's how Renkut factory, our mother plant, we are doing a large scale CSR initiative to put multiple bodies, check dams and this kind of initiatives, so that whatever water we consume, we give back 2 times to society.
Oh.
So anyone can do that. Anyone and everyone can do it.
And if I were to just add a minor point, it's actually not very expensive to do this. It's very economical to be water positive. So from the Mahindra Group perspective also, we have been water positive since 2014 at a group level. So both through CSR projects and through a lot of initiatives depending on the quantum of water. For textile it will be much more difficult, I realize that. But generally speaking, for most industries, you can actually achieve this relatively easily. It's just about intent.
So we have put massive check dams in Mahan in Madhya Pradesh, in Renkut in Uttar Pradesh. In fact, a special parliamentary panel came and saw how can Hindalco put it in 6 to 12 lakhs.
Achha.
Okay, so we do put so many check dams for farmers so that we give back that much of water or conserve the rainwater. Basically, it is a surface runoff. So you conserve it and give it to farmers for better use.
Okay. So any other key points that you would like?
Water, I think, is one of those key resources. So whether you have a, let's say, a goal and target around energy, which every one of us has anyways, but I think water, the reality is right in front of us that most of our operations are in the water scarce regions, and the availability is always a question mark. So I think that's the first and I think the easiest thing to do, to at least conserve as much as possible, creating check dams, and as you've rightly said, in each of these areas. And we actually have also, apart from doing this, the sewage treatment in a community partnership, because there was nothing then, so the sewage was flowing over ground, and you understand the scenario. Apart from that, what we are also doing now is to complete Kutch. We are transforming Kutch through establishing and rejuvenating the existing water bodies, desilting them so that tomorrow, once the rainfall happens, the water is able to be retained, available to the farmers for. And if you actually go and visit, and that's the interesting part of sustainability, the kind of impact it creates is which you can't normally see. The amount of migration that has happened, because Kutch being a dry land and there is nothing possible for the farmers, everybody is moved out. But if you are able to create that opportunity and the farming comes back, and so the community starts thriving. And those kind of things which actually motivate the sustainability officers, I guess that's my feeling, why you want to put out yourself and do all that work.
Yeah, your sewage treatment plant is quite an innovative idea, amazing. I think we need more people like you to do something for a city like Mumbai. Last year, on this panel discussion, we had one of the largest real estate builders and asking them. But I think they are quite behind you people when I see, and cities like Mumbai and Delhi also pose a different kind of challenge when you do that. We'll open ground for questions. There's time, we can take 2-3 questions from the audience. Yes, madam. Can you give the mic there?
I think not just question, one comment.
Sure, sure.
Additional
Can you
point.
just,
I think
introduce
sir
yourself and then.
has, I am Dr. Aditi and I represent Welspun Enterprises.
Oh.
And by the way, we are building India's largest wastewater treatment facility in Dharavi, which will be one of its kind,
Oh,
by the
really?
way. And it is 418 MLD capacity.
Oh.
It would be treating Mumbai's 1/6 of the sewage at this particular point of time.
Really?
And it will be handling 350 metric ton of sludge. It has a demethanation plant there, which will convert the methane in the sludge into the biogas, particularly. And there is also, it will also be one of the most land efficient waste water treatment facility, which will be 4-story.
Oh, that's
Okay.
amazing.
So-
Mumbai city is going to be a nightmare for sewage treatments in the next decade or so.
Yeah.
There are a lot of inside stories, but I think that is amazing
Yeah.
initiative if you're doing it. And
Yeah, I think with a lot of challenges, a lot of positive things also should come to light with the help of media.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else who wants to ask a question to our panelist? Yes, sir. There. Can you give a mic there?
Hi everybody. Great panel. My name is Rachit. I work for a climate-first tech company called Step Change. I just had a very interesting question, which has nothing to do with these companies. But if you put cumulatively all of these companies together, they contribute to a significant % of market share in India. So I just want to know, because we are talking to the sustainability heads and leads, what do you think about air quality as a problem in India? Because I feel like that's often not talked about. To give you some context, so PM 2.5, which is particulate matter 2.5, as per WHO, they say that it should not exceed 5 micrograms per cubic meter. And for PM10, it says it should not exceed 15 micrograms per cubic meter, right? And Mumbai today is averaging 41 micrograms per cubic meter on PM 2.5 and 107 micrograms per cubic meter, which is almost 8 to 10x of the limit or the standard set by WHO. So I was just curious to know, what is your take on this? Because, we talk about sustainability and climate change a lot, and you are actually pioneering a lot of these initiatives for your companies. But have we thought about collaboration, not working in silos, working with the governments, and coming to a solution for this?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Mumbai's real estate prices should crash solely on this one single thing. So
No,
anybody, yeah.
I can take that. So see, air pollution is a really complex issue, and not just in India but globally. The recent WEF, World Economic Forum's risk report actually puts air pollution as the second biggest risk around the world, and India particularly, that's a big factor. The issue is also extremely complex, not something that can be solved by any one organization or even the government alone. It will require a collective effort. I'll address this question in two parts. One, what are we doing? And second, what are we doing collaboratively with, let's say, the ecosystem, or what are other people in the ecosystem doing? So the first part is that there are different industries, and each industry will have a role. If I were to talk from a Mahindra perspective, we are a big player in the auto industry. Now, auto industry, there are two ways to solve this issue. One is just to make more fuel efficient vehicles. There are relatively stringent norms in the country already, and they are improving year on year, and there's a lot of investment and work that goes into. There's a full 3,000 people R&D facility. A large part or a significant part of that facility does work on improving fuel efficiency of the vehicles. That's one part. The second part of the solution is moving from ICE vehicles to EVs, which is the other part where there's a humongous amount of investments being made. None of this will happen in a short period of time. It's a decadal solution. So that's one part. The second industry that I'll touch upon is the construction industry. And local pollution to a large extent, to some extent, can be said that it's been driven by the construction industry. So in Mahindra Life Spaces, for all our properties, what we have started doing is that monitor local air quality. And as a result, we have clear data at the center to say that this is the air quality in the vicinity of the construction that is happening and what kind of initiatives are we taking. So there's a very focused initiative on ensuring that we at least are not contributing to local air pollution during construction. The third initiative that we'll come to is more at a global level. There's a body called the Clean Air Alliance, through which we are working on a few policy measures, learning from best practices around the world, influencing government policy, what kind of things are most effective or not. I have my friend from Deloitte here. They did a wonderful job when it comes to crop burning. So along with a wide variety of stakeholders, they have done something wonderful in terms of how do you prevent crop burning, which is often a quoted problem for air pollution. So I think it's a relatively very complex issue, but will require contribution and support from pretty much every stakeholder out there to solve that.
We can take one last question. Yes, gentleman there. Quickly we can.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Gomes. I'm an ex-employee of Aramco, which we have one of the best sustainability practices across fuel, oil, gas, chemicals, blah, blah, blah. I want to ask the panelists, anyone can take. Leaving Make in India, do you all look for best, I don't call it best practices, always better practices, because there's always better than better. Do you look to the West, Europe, even Africa, for these sustainability practices? Or are you rather reinventing the wheel? And the second, I need corporate groups like Mahindra's or Welspun to take it across your own sectors within the country, rather than them reinvent the wheel. So you have something, your best like education practice, you take it across to other places where you can increase the leverage, rather than them struggling. So that is your big CSR, rather than asking the government to poke its nose in everybody's business. Thank you.
Briefly.
I think if I can answer that, it's a very valid point. See, technology has a way of moving borders. So I would say that it's not that we are reinventing the wheel ourselves all the time. It is, with a lot of knowledge transfer that happens across different forums. We look at technologies, but then obviously some challenges, or rather large part of the challenges, have to be customized and sort of made them suitable to the geography and the conditions at which you are operating. So you could use that and rebuild your solution around it. Second, what you said about taking these solutions to within the sector. And I think as a Welspun, if I can say so, we've started this entire exercise of pulling up our supply chains. That's the first place we operate. If I can give you an example, our textile value chain would have about 700 to 800 suppliers, the small and medium guys who work with us. And as a regular practice, we have started talking, or rather training events, knowledge transfer sessions, hand-holding sessions for all these companies who could learn from what Welspun is doing. So at least on our part, and I'm sure the other companies also have started doing that, this knowledge transfer bit, so that then, of course, so it's a two-side handshake. You can extend and you can shake from your side, but it requires equally from the other side as well, and that's happening. I would probably say that's it's taking its own sweet time for people to get used to this new way of doing business. But nonetheless, at least from an organizational perspective, we extend that support. We extend and create that openness within our operations, within our practices, so that whatever suits them, they could pick up from us. We would do the necessary hand-holding because our teams have become stronger and we are able to extend that. So to that extent, we are trying to do our bit so that the entire, I would say, the value chain or the entire industry gets better.
So with that, we are pressed for time, and we'd like to wrap up this session, but there are other interesting sessions here throughout the day. So I would request you all to be here. The key takeaway of this session is that the era of take, make and dispose is coming to an end, and we are looking at reuse, recycle and regenerate. So that is the key takeaway. Thank you, our esteemed panelists and all the guests here. Thank you very much.